Hello, I'm back and I have another story time for you guys. This is going to be kind of a short, kind of quick one, but trust me, it gets a little bit wild. This is the story of the first time that I ever got pulled over and the pretty compromising situation that surrounded it. I definitely thought that either me or somebody else was going to jail, but trust me, it was not my fault. So this story took place on what I think was actually just a weekday. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I'm pretty sure it was just your normal average weeknight. I was a sophomore in college living in a dorm. It was a pretty quiet evening and my roommate happened to be studying abroad at the time, so I had the room all to myself and I decided to have a nice lazy night in. I was sitting around in my pajamas playing Skyrim and had just come out pretty recently when I decided that I wanted popcorn. Now that whole evening I had been texting a bunch of my friends who all lived a floor above me and they were all hanging out playing video games as well. Now this weeknight wasn't totally average in that it was 420, which as a lot of you know, is a holiday that a lot of stoners like to partake in, and I was friends with a lot of stoners. I was not partaking because I had more important matters to attend to. There was a dragon that was terrorizing my village and I needed to take care of that. But when I texted my friend and told him that I was running out to Walmart to get some popcorn, he said that he had an errand that he wanted to run and asked if he could come. Now I assumed, seeing as how he was one of the stoner friends, that he was probably just getting hungry and wanted to come along to get some munchies for himself. So I decided to leave on my pajamas because it's Walmart at like 9 p.m. and I don't think anyone there is going to judge me. So he gets into my car, and for the purposes of this story, I am going to call him Leo. I've been watching a lot of That 70s Show, so I'm sure that all of you understand why we're going to use that name. So anyway, Leo gets into my car and he says that he just needs me to take him to another one of the dorms on campus, that he needs to stop by and talk to a friend. Now this is where, if I'm being honest, I was being pretty naive because I thought he just needs to pick up some homework or maybe he left something in their dorm room, something like that. Totally did not occur to me that, hey, he might be going to see his drug dealer. So I drive him to the dorm and he's like, I'm just gonna run in real fast, I'll be right back. And I think, okay, that's normal, and I just am sitting out there waiting. About 15 minutes later, Leo starts coming back out of the building and he has this look on his face that just seems like there's a problem. He looks super guilty, he looks like he's trying to tell me I'm sorry through facial expressions alone. And there's this guy in all black just following behind him. So Leo comes up to my car and he hops in the passenger seat, and this guy just opens up my back door and slides in the back of my car. Side note, this is why I make sure that my doors are locked at all times now. The guy in the back leans forward and he goes, "Yo, my name is Worm and I need a favor from you." And I'm sitting there thinking, listen here, Worm, I don't know who you are and I certainly don't owe you any favors. But at the same time, I don't know what Worm is about, and he could be pretty dangerous. And he's already in the back of my car, so I guess we're going wherever Worm says we're going. So I start driving, and he gives me directions to a house where essentially a frat party is happening. Leo and him get out of the car, and at that point I had no choice but to assume that they wanted me to wait for them. So I'm sitting in my car, and I realize that my headlights are shining directly into the windows of another car, and I can tell that the people are getting pretty annoyed with this. And I really don't want any trouble at this point, so I go ahead and turn off my headlights. About 10 minutes go by and Leo and Worm come back out of the house and get back into my car. Worm's jacket has gotten a lot bulkier and he reeks of weed. This is the point where I realize that Worm is for sure a drug dealer and he has his entire 420 stash shoved in his jacket in the backseat of my car. He wants to go back to the dorm that we were at before, and I am more than happy to hightail it out of there. So I start driving off. As you might remember, I had my headlights off. I, unfortunately, did not remember that fact. I hadn't even been driving for about a minute and a half and a cop pulls me over. Obviously, this is not a great situation. I'm being pulled over with a drug dealer in the back of my car who definitely is holding. The cop takes a while to get out of the car and make his way to the window, and the whole time I am just angry. I am cursing them both out under my breath while I start digging around to find my driver's license and my registration. Meanwhile, Worm is straight up panicking in the backseat of my car, and he takes a massive wad of cash and shoves it into the seat in front of him. He looks at me and he says, "If I get arrested, you need to use this money for bail. Use this money to bail me out if I get arrested." I don't say it to him outright because I don't want to make a bad situation even worse, but quite frankly, if he's going to jail, he's staying in jail and I am pocketing that money. And who knows, with the way my night is going, I might need it for my own bail money. The cop finally makes it up to the window and you can tell he is super suspicious about what's going on. I roll down my window and he asks if I'm aware that my headlights are off. I try to play it off as the sweet, cute, innocent little white girl, and I say no, I must have accidentally forgot to turn them on before I started driving. He's clearly not buying it, and he tells me that I look really nervous. So I tell him the truth, and I tell him that I am really nervous, but it's because I've never been pulled over before. That's not a lie, I never had been pulled over up until this point. He proceeds to ask me what I was doing out at this time of night, and I tell him that I was just picking up my friends from a party, I was trying to be a good designated driver, that they had been out, and I was just being a good friend. That's not a complete lie, because in that moment I would say that I was being a very good friend to them and not ratting their butts out. Cop takes my license and registration and heads back to his car, and he was back there for a long time. I guarantee that he was running my plates and running my name to make sure that I wasn't lying about having never been pulled over before. But thankfully I wasn't, so even though he still thinks there's something fishy going on, he decides that he has no other choice than to just let me go away with a warning. I tell him thank you and he walks away. I roll up the window, immediately turn on my headlights, and start heading back to that dorm. I try to take a route back that I'm pretty sure no cops will be on, and I make sure that I follow every rule of the road on my way back to that dorm. When we get back to the dorm, Worm tries to thank me, but I am just too angry to even look at him at this point, so he gets out of the car, and thankfully I never hear from Worm again. I would also just like to say that I later found out his name was like Edmund or something like that, so I get why he made up a fake name, but really, the best fake name that you could come up with was Worm. Apparently they don't make you take an IQ test before you become a drug dealer. I can tell that Leo feels real bad about what just happened, and he starts apologizing profusely and telling me that when we get to Walmart, he will buy me all the popcorn that I could ever possibly want. And I told him that he's damn right he better be buying my popcorn. He decides to run and buy himself so that he can get me some popcorn, get himself some snacks, and so that he can buy me a nice cool 6-pack of Smirnoff Ice for my troubles. We get back to the dorms, and at this point I'm just too flustered to focus on saving Whiterun anymore. So I go with him back upstairs to hang out with my friends. I have a couple of the Smirnoff Ices and we tell everybody what had just happened. They're all shocked that we walked away with just a warning, although I'm not that surprised because I do know that Tiny White Girl has a lot of power in a small town in the middle of nowhere. Nowadays, I'm still friends with Leo, and we still have a good laugh every now and then about what happened that night, and I hope that you guys had a bit of a laugh too. I think the real takeaway from this story is never trust anybody who tells you that their name is Worm. That's all I have for you guys right now. It's been real, it's been really real, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.